Hey, I wanted to make a video about how to cure depression. I uh, I was suicidally depressed ever since I was a little kid, and depressed to the brink of suicide through much of my adulthood. And and I haven't been depressed in a number of years now. Took a long time, but eventually I was able to heal enough to get to the point where and learn how to be honest enough to get to the point where I learned how to learn how to genuinely love myself, learn how to build some genuine self esteem, and to be able to be capable of taking those actions. And for a long time, as it felt like there was a lot of grinding of gears, like think the pieces of the puzzle didn't fit and things didn't add up. But eventually, there was a threshold that was crossed where my life started to get better, and and uh, and there were still times after that I slipped back into it, or something would happen where it'd bring up all this old stuff where I wanted to off myself. But by and large, most of the time, I'm doing pretty good, and and it's given me an understanding of how people get to that place. And I understand that the major components of it are codependency, because people who are depressed and want to kill themselves take responsibility for things that aren't theirs to own, and blame themselves for things that weren't their fault. And I tell people, if you kill yourself, I don't blame you. I do not blame you at all, and I don't think God blames you either. I'm not. I am one of these people that believes that God doesn't condemn you if you kill yourself, and so people who want to kill themselves, they blame themselves for things that they blame themselves for it. They think it's their fault, and they think they're broken. They think they're a piece of shit. They think that they don't deserve to be happy and they're not worthy, and what fits perfectly into that, what goes hand in hand with that is codependency. Thinking that you're responsible for other people's feelings, being more concerned about how other people perceive you or feel about you than you perceive about yourself. And when I found enough healing, enough inner, had enough of the healthy puzzle pieces within myself, I was able to start building on top of that. But it takes a long time. And another one of the things that I had to do is I had to learn how to have a positive relationship with myself. I had to create a positive dialogue within myself. And that felt corny at one point. And, it no longer feels that way. But I had to learn how to talk to myself in a positive way. I had to learn how to give myself positive affirmations. I had to learn how to I had to learn how to treat myself positively when I felt like shit. When something happened and I felt like shit, and I felt broken, or I felt hopeless or worthless, or that it wasn't going to get any better, I had to learn how to speak to myself in a kind and loving way, as if I was a parent taking care of like this sad, despondent kid that felt broken. And eventually, that made a huge impact. That made a huge fucking impact on the inner workings of myself, and how I saw the rest of the world. And that's one thing that healthy people do. Emotionally healthy people are capable of doing that. They're capable of loving themselves and putting themselves first in a kind and loving way, not a selfish way that steamrolls everybody else, but they place themselves first. They take the time that they need to grieve. They take the time they need to heal. They don't run away from their feelings. They honor their feelings. They know that, and they let go of trying to control that and control the timetable. You know, they don't stuff or anesthetize their feelings, and they know that grief is a process. They know that other people aren't responsible for making them feel better. You know, and they have supportive relationships in their life that are healthy that allow them to do that. They have emotionally healthy relationships are clean. You have to have clean relationships in your life in order to heal. Excuse me. Because otherwise they're going to drag you back down. They're going to get you involved with bullshit that is going to hinder your forward motion and your progress. And that's another thing. That's another thing you got to do to heal from depression is you have to learn how to cut people out of your fucking life. Because a natural byproduct of being depressed is having unhealthy relationships that are going to keep you stuck. Relationships where people demand things of you or place things on you that they should be doing themselves. Being emotionally manipulative, guilting you, shaming you into compliance or feeling bad about yourself or feeling bad that you should be taking care of yourself, feeling bad for placing yourself first, feeling bad, shaming you for having wants and needs. Those, you know, having wants and needs are completely legitimate. Human being, it's a legitimate human need. You know, like food or water, and anyone that makes you feel like a bad person for having those is just trying to they don't have your best intentions at heart. You know, they are wicked and they are evil, and you got to cut them out of your life. And I don't care if it's your fucking mom or your brother or your wife or your kids. You have to, well, maybe, I don't know. I guess I'm old enough to where I think that, like, kids can be adults because a lot of my friends have adult children. But, you know, if someone is fucked up, I don't care who it is, cut them the fuck out of your life. You are not obligated to keep anyone in your life. And that's another thing unhealthy. That's another typical behavior of unhealthy people is they feel obligated or they try to obligate others to keep them in their life. You know, like, oh, I've been friends with this person for so long, or oh, I'm related to this person, or oh, I should, you know, or they think of it as some duty. Oh, it's my obligation to put up with my wife's, you know, meddling mother. Fuck that bitch. You know, like, fuck her. Or you know, whoever it is. You have to get people in your life that have healthy boundaries. And then you have to force yourself to take care of yourself. You have to do something different. And I remember a few years ago, it was like 4 years ago, maybe, something like that. I was so fucking down in the dumps and so bummed out, and I was super fucking depressed. It came out of nowhere. I had a good run, a good handful of years where I was doing good, and then out of nowhere, boom, I was fucking down in the dumps, and all that I could do was just lay in bed and listen to my brain fantasize about putting a gun in my mouth and blowing my fucking brains out. And I was like, fuck, I have to, like, this is crazy. My head is fucking crazy, and I got to do something about it. Oh, and that reminds me of something else. You know, it's like, I had to learn how to sort through what was going on in my head enough to where I could have like an objective experience of my own headspace. You know, like not everything in my fucking head is true. Not everything in my head is even me. My head will fucking say shit and it's just stuff coming out of the ether. And so I could be divorced from what was going on, you know, like I could see my own head being depressed and crazy and it was like, God, this is making me feel awful. I have to do something different. And so every morning, no matter what, no matter how I felt, no matter what time it was, no matter even if I didn't get enough sleep, because for years I suffered from insomnia, even if I had only 4 hours of sleep, every single morning when I woke up, first thing I did before I did anything else, I would put on my shoes and I would run up to fucking I would go up to Mount Tabor, which is and fucking climb the stairs all the way to Mount Tabor and back. And I force myself to fucking do that every single morning. And people will say, oh, exercising is good because of the dopamine and blah, blah, blah. But more importantly, what exercising does is it sidetracks the habitual neural the habitual thinking in one's head. That's the important thing about like doing something else, like taking action. It's like if you don't feel good, take action because it interrupts what's going on in your head. You cannot be thinking something, change what you're physically doing, and be capable of thinking the same thing. It's a mechanical function. So in taking action, taking different action, it just jumps the tracks or whatever. And that helped. That helped. It helped a lot. And when I first started going, I was sluggish and it took forever, and I only went up the mountain once, and then I came back and took a shower and spent the rest of the day not killing myself. and then the next day, and then the next day, and the next day, and eventually what happened is like I could go up the mountain twice and then come back, and then I'd get to the mountain and then go up the mountain 3 times, and then and eventually I created this habit, which is important, creating a habit of exercise, because exercise is self-care. Even though I didn't want to do it, I didn't feel like doing it, everything in my body screamed against it, I was taking care of my body. And so self-care revolves around exercise, it revolves around what I put in my body, it revolves around how I talk to myself, it revolves around how I feel about myself, it revolves around how I speak to myself when I'm having a hard time and how I take care of myself. Because when we're depressed, it's super easy to go down this rabbit hole and revel and relish in this comfortable place of being depressed and getting to a place of liking it, or going down this rabbit hole of despair every time that something sad happens, like triggers. It's like we're avoiding feeling our feelings by just going down the hole of fucking depression. But eventually, I through learning how to get honest with myself, through learning how to talk about my grief in a way that access my suffering, and with enough people in my life that were healthy, and through getting rid of people who were unhealthy, and examining my beliefs, and examining why I had those things, and getting at on the other side of false pride and ego and vanity and all on getting on the other side of being cool, getting on the other side of codependency, getting on the other side of wanting to be accepted or liked or validated or acknowledged externally. I've been able to chip away at this shit, and it's a tall order. It's a tall order to fucking give somebody. But I never had any reason to believe that things could ever be different. I never had any reason to believe that I was worthwhile. I never had any reason to believe that it could be different. And I didn't know anybody who understood really what it was going to take. And the the medical community, they just want to dope us up on a bunch of fucking medication and give us a bunch of diagnoses and be like, oh, well, this is who you are, and you're gonna, here, let's put this band-aid on the gunshot wound for, indefinitely. And that shit keeps people sick. It keeps people stuck. And I believe that all mental illness comes out of trauma. It comes out of undealt with grief, and it comes out as a out of as a byproduct of not having the skills and tools to be able to take care of one's own emotional and mental hygiene. And I believe that all mental illness, by and large, particularly depression, can be solved and healed. You can be healed from it. Every single person I've ever met that was depressed believes that they are at fault for things that somehow they're responsible. And I swear to God, man, it ain't your fault. I've been there. I know what kind of burden that is to carry around, and I know what it's like to believe that like I don't deserve to get what I want, and that I don't deserve to get what I need, and that somehow I'm broken, and it ain't your fault. It ain't my fault. It ain't your fault. And there's a way to get. There are ways to get better, and it does get better. It does get better over time, and it can be done. I'm living proof of that. And I believe that nobody is born broken, and I really believe that everybody is worthy of being happy, and you deserve to love yourself. You deserve to love yourself, and you're worth it. And I think that's about it.